because there's two things that hang people up: credit and finances. I can only do one. I can't pay your bills. I can't make you make any more money. But one thing that we can do is we can clean their credit. We can fix their credit. We can make sure that their credit is in a spot that they can soon get a home, get a loan, start shopping for a home. And the reason how we're able to do it is in a manner that typically takes between 30 and 90 days. Okay, so that's not a long time. Now, that's in a perfect world. The perfect world is you deal with the public, and there's the saying that the buyers are liars. Yeah. And a lot of times it's like they just lie to themselves because it's like, okay, I'll get this done. And I run into so many people like, oh, I need this done yesterday. Okay, cool. Here's how much it's going to cost. Let's get going. Here's the paperwork. Oh, okay. Yeah. And then a week and a half, 2 weeks later, now they're getting to that. So the process is, what we're able to do is the way it all works. I'll give you a little background of how it works. And please ask questions, because I don't want you guys to sit here and just like, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear me talk as much as you guys don't want to, but please interject and ask questions. And hopefully I'll get to them and then show you some testimonials, etc. But the way it works is the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, says that anything that is on your credit report can be challenged for the accuracy and the validity of it. Now, that's the key right there. It's the accuracy of it, which basically means anything that is going to go on your credit report has to have at least 15 items of verification. Some of those, that's a lot when you think about it. Yeah. 15 items. So let's just say, what's your name, sir?
Dylan.
Oh, Dylan. Okay. So Dylan, I bought something from Dylan, didn't pay him, whatever. Dylan sends me to collections. We sent a contract. That contract has things like social, first name, last name, middle name, email address, actual physical address. All those items, including possibly even spouse, workplace, all these things he's supposed to collect them. As he's collecting that information, that's all the information that he has to now confirm the contract and all those items on the contract. So let's just say I stop paying Dylan. Dylan's like, well, you owe me money. Like, whatever, Dylan. A month goes by, and now he sends me to collections. I'm like, oh, crap. Okay, well, now the collection company, we asked Dylan, we will send a letter saying, okay, Dylan, why did you send him to collections? You have to give a reason. Well, he didn't pay. Well, that reason, we also need to follow up on, well, send us the actual contract. Most times they don't have the actual contract. 100% of the times they will not have the contract if it's sent to a third-party collector. That in itself will null and void.
Wait, who's they when they send it?
Yes,
the original company.
The original what's called the creditor or debt furnisher, which might be Dylan. He's the collection company. If he sent it to him, he's not typically going to send him over the contract, actually, because that's illegal for him to send him the contract, because it's a privacy act too. Cannot share that information to him. So long and short of it, collection companies are actually very, very, very illegal, but they're very, very, very big too. It's kind of like shutting down big oil. It's not going to happen. Right. There's too many people that work, and the economy would be disrupted, honestly, if you shut down the collection companies. It would be. So that's why it's really not pushed on. But we legally push them and say, okay, send us the wet contract, the wet signature on the contract. He's not going to have it. And that's another thing too. Most people don't know that every contract is actually supposed to have a wet signature. An e-signature, even though we've got the 3 boxes that say, okay, well, I authorize this, I authorize this, it is still supposed to follow up with a wet signature. Which, that's huge.
Yeah.
I am not saying to do it, but that in itself can get you out of a whole lot of stuff. That's exactly why you don't ever wet signature, or you always wet signature, whether it be a loan for a house, a car. The paperwork will follow, because those are giant, large items.
Even credit cards?
Even credit cards.
So if it gets challenged, does that mean, let's say you're in collections and then that gets challenged for the contract with the wet signature, does that mean that collection can be voided, like go away
Collection
potentially?
is gone. Collection is not just removed from the credit report. The collection, the actual debt associated with it is removed as well legally.
Wow.
Yeah. One of the big reasons that it happens is, or the bigger components of people that typically send, that go to collections that we see typically are utility bills, Verizon, car insurance, you know. But I think it was last month, we looked and said that every day there are 14 trillion accounts that go through inside of the bureaus that are actually activated by people. Because you think about how many millions of people that live in the United States, billions, are in the United States. What happens is, out of each of those persons, they say each one of them has about 30 separate accounts themselves. So I mean, you think about me, I've got, okay, my phone,
Oh,
your phone, your utility is one,
Mhm.
your bank account, how many credit cards do you have? Oh, you got Netflix, you got Hulu, you got Verizon, da, da, da. Every single one of those are accounts that go into this big, massive pool of data that has to be verified. Every single one of those. 9 times out of 10, they don't grab all of that information that they're supposed to. Again, this isn't something I bring up to people and say, hey, yeah, start getting all this stuff and then blow the debt off. I mean, if you do that intentionally, that could, if you get found out about doing it, that's could potentially land you in some
Is that
big
why they
trouble.
want you to sign up for email and text and this and all these different things?
Exactly.
Is that why? One reason why?
That's one of the reasons why. And one of the reasons why, if you ever notice that credit, Experian and TransUnion and Equifax, they send you all these things and say, hey, let's do this Experian boost. And so you've seen that on because what they're doing is they're populating their data, their information on you, because they're supposed to have 15 points of data on you as well. I can guarantee you they don't. On average, we found out they have about 5 points of data on you.
to verify the validity.
To verify the validity of it, yeah.
Oh.
Because you can't just say, hey, look, Dylan, I don't like you. I mean, anyone can get, I don't like you. I'm going to send you to the bureaus. Anyone can do that. And you know what the bureau's going to do? Okay. They'll put it up there. It's going to cost a little bit of money. They'll put it up there. But then they say, hey, well, what's all this information? I need all the information from Dylan that's verifying it. Oh, we just have his name and his social. That's not good enough. You got to remove it. So that's from the bureau level. Now the debt furnisher level, it's, debt furnisher is, whoever the money was actually originally owed to. Once they start sending that information, they actually start forfeiting their right to collect on it. So he's no longer allowed to even collect on it for you or for the person. So we know all of this information. So we just basically bombard them with this information. Hey, you have to, unless you show this, you're liable for a fine. Typically the fine is about $4,000 or $5,000 per $100 that they have you on. So, I mean, if you've got a Verizon bill that's, you owe for $500, they could be liable up to $10,000 if they keep it on the credit report.
Oh.
And that's also a letter that we send to the letter says, hey, look, if you keep this on, you're going to get sued. We will sue you. We don't ever, but the wording is heavy enough. The letter is strong enough. Our letters come from attorneys. So that really holds weight as well. So, any questions?
I do not work on Mary.
No, I was just gonna say, so how does information get on your credit score, like the Experian and TransUnion and all that stuff? That, like the companies who have debt or you have debt with, they have to send it to these.
Yep.
Is that like a law that they have to do it, or that's just choice by?
It's a choice, actually, because what they're doing is they're holding you to the fire, kind of. They say, hey, look, if you go buy a car, and they say, hey, look, okay, you bought a car, but if there's no recourse to not paying the car,
Right.
they're going to think, okay, they know that the recourse is your credit score that everybody has. It's a FICO score, Fair Isaac Corporation. That's all that stands for. And these are private companies. They're private companies.
I did not know what that stood for.
Yeah, and they're private companies, and they're governed by the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Board. That you guys may know because they work with a lot of loan officers and mortgage. So basically, it's just it's a information to house your data, house your debt. And what it does is it just says every time you add, so if you buy a car, all that 15 points of information is on that on that application. That's why the application is so big and thick. They're supposed to take that and upload all that information into the viewers are supposed to. Now, Equifax is out of Atlanta, Georgia. Excuse me, Equifax Experian is out of Atlanta, Georgia. Equifax is out of London. TransUnion is out of Texas. Experian in Texas, their minimum wage is $8 an hour. All that information does not get scanned. It has to manually be put in. If you're making $8 an hour and you go through all that stuff, do you really care about, okay, I didn't put this stuff in, right? No, on to the next. And that's just unfortunately the way it is. So you can bet that all of your information is not in there.
Huh.
Yeah. And that's why, if you think about it, why Experian, all the credit bureaus, they cost $30 to have, your credit pooled at $30 monthly, is because that's the reason why they don't want to take your information off. If there's no information on there, you don't need to pay them $30 to see what's on there. There's nothing on there, But if they keep housing your data, that's great. They're basically, enslaving it to say, hey, look, yeah, it's here. We'll hold it for you. Oh yeah, there's some negative stuff. You want to see what it is? You got to charge us for it. That's one of the reasons why they don't want it off. They make money on it. They make a lot of money on it.
But also like the creditors too, like if they think that you're never going to pay them, then they'll sell that debt to the collection company. So they're like, man, if they're not going to pay back their $2,500 that they owe us, let's sell it for $400 and at least get $400 in our pocket right now, sell it off to that collector. And then that collector is trying to collect money.
Yeah, it's 100% correct. For instance, like I tell people, like if you want a good side gig and you got a lot of time, take $2,000. You can buy $100,000 worth of bad debt. That $2,000, you'll need to sit on the end dial, because what the people do is they'll sell junk debt. They know they can't collect on it. It's already off of their credit report.
Are they allowed to sell debt, or is that just part of your
The law,
contract?
the law says any debt can be bought or sold.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tax liens and stuff like that.
Tax liens, all that stuff can be
Yeah.
bought or sold, even after it's paid, believe it or not. Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy. I mean, I've got a weird wealth of knowledge of all that kind of weird stuff. Like I can go on Jeopardy and do this kind of stuff. But I mean, a lot of that really doesn't mean anything, when it comes down to it. I mean, I'm kind of giving you like all the details, like what's encased in the sausage, and sometimes people don't care about that. But I like to tell you that information so you know how it actually works, instead of someone just coming in here, oh yeah, I clean your credit. Well, how? That's like if you had a surgeon say, hey, look, my heart is going weird. Doctor says, oh, I can fix it. Okay, sure. No, you're not going to take it off face value. How are you going to do it? It's like, well, I'm going to go grab a pig heart and we're going to do this. And that's what we're going to do. You're like, okay, if it makes sense, let's try it out. And we've had massive success. I'm the owner of the company. Yeah, good.
A couple questions. You'll probably touch on this towards the end, I imagine, but like, trade lines and certain debt, like, are they pretty uniform, or are some easier to get removed than others? Like a credit card, is that easier to get removed than like an auto loan charge off? Or is it like once it's there, it's the same, getting it off?
Good question. The most difficult item that we have getting removed is a late payment. The reason why a late payment is because every time you're making the payment late, you are verifying that this is your account.
oh shoot.
It's that simple. If you're the bank, I'm saying, hey, Cameron's late. Can you remove this? Can you verify the debt? Can you verify his account? Yeah, he verified it. He just made a late payment yesterday. And you're doing it every 30 days. You got a rolling 30, 60, 90. It's always. So what happens is we cannot remove a late payment unless it's current. Unless it's so. And here's the cool thing about how we get a late payment off. This might blow your mind. If you become current on your late payment, whatever it is, we will actually write a letter to the CEO of whatever company you're late with. Now, is it going to reach him? Probably not. But you know who it will get to is the secretary. The secretary will look at something, and the secretary actually will probably read it and say, hey, look, and the letter that we write is a goodwill letter. Very simple. Hey, you know, Cameron was late on this, but we have all of your information. You know, he's had his house for X amount of years or this credit card for X amount of years, da, da, da. He promises he won't do it again, da, da, da. For good faith, can you please remove this off of this credit report? It financially hurts you none. You know what they do? Okay. 50% of the time that works. So if it doesn't work within the first 30 days, then we write back again. You know, we notice that you didn't do this. However, now we're noticing that you are in violation of this law, this law, this law. He is now current. We are imploring you to please go back to our first letter that asked very kindly to please remove this off of this credit report. 9 times out of 10, that happens. If it doesn't, then we write a heavier letter, and then it's off. That's where the 30, 60, 90 days come in. So we do each round of disputes are 30 days. Now, in a perfect world, that 30 days, he'll get a letter that says, yes, the item has come off or it stays. We ask the client if that letter, we need that letter, snap a picture of it and email it to us because we have to send that back to them. We cannot dispute something that has come off. If it came off and we're disputing it, they can go, well, that's frivolous disputing. And then we can get in trouble. You can get in trouble.
It's what dispute?
Frivolous, which just means you kind of just throw crap on the wall. Just so
Yeah.
we need to know if that item is still on there. If you don't send us the information for 2, 3, 4 weeks, we cannot dispute it. Therein lies why now sometimes things go longer than 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, because the client is not doing their job. And on the 30th day and 25th day, we will remind you, send reminder letters to your clients, like you should be getting something in the mail anytime soon. Day 30, have you received anything in the mail? Have you, and a lot of times, what happens is items come off their credit report and their Credit Karma chimes, oh, cool, my score's up, blah, blah, blah. And then they get their house and then they just pay no more attention to it because they got their score up enough and they got what they wanted and they're good enough. And that's kind of cool, but you're going to pay us to remove all the items, not just 4 to get your score up. That does benefit you because if their score goes up enough, they can now they're, in the process of getting a home. But the whole point is to get them as high as possible. Sometimes they just get antsy and don't want to wait.
A couple questions.
Mhm.
Do you or anyone in your office speak Spanish? 1. And 2, what is the range of cost for these services? Is it like, if there's only a few, dings, is it less or
Or
is
the
it
intake
just like a
process, too.
nightmare?
Yeah. So the first question is I've got a sales rep. So it's myself, my assistant who lives down in Merced. I have a sales rep that's local here that helps me out. And then my disputing team. My disputing team, it consists of 4 other individuals that are all remote. And actually I do my sales rep in Miami. Mucho español. Yeah, a lot of Spanish. He's actually Cuban. And so he always tells me, he goes like, my Spanish it's good enough because they speak a different dialect, but he's, he talks to me. I'm like, it sounds Spanish to me. It works. So yes, in that case, we'll send them right over there. And it's just like everything with COVID was the only good thing about COVID that came out of it. Everybody got so used to being remote and doing things over the phone and doing things over Zoom, etc. And Tom, that way in our office, we have an office in Rockland across the street from Strikes. We get like 2 people a year going in there. It's like, and usually they're older people because they want to see a face. And now the cost, that's the big thing. Everyone wants to know what the cost is. And it is customized. It's based off of what they have on their credit report. And is it cheap? Well, I think anything's cheap if you're going to get it removed from your credit report. It's definitely, and now is it affordable? It should be. So I look at whatever's on the credit report. If someone comes to us and says, hey, look, I've got 1 collection. That's all I have. They're probably looking at $400. One-time payment, $400. Yeah. Or someone comes and says, hey, I've got 1 bankruptcy. That's all they have. And usually I'm like, 1 bankruptcy. Very rarely do they have 1 bankruptcy because usually all the debts are associated are tied onto it too.
Yeah.
But I have seen people that actually do have 1 bankruptcy and nothing else is on there. That 1 bankruptcy is $500. Typically, we stop between $1,300 and $1,500.
You can get a bankruptcy off.
Absolutely. Yeah. You want to know how to do bankruptcy? This will blow
Yeah,
your mind
yes.
too. A bankruptcy is kind of very simple how a bankruptcy gets removed. So a bankruptcy, you go and file bankruptcy, say, look, I can't pay these things, da da da. Bankruptcy court says, okay. The bankruptcy court is liable to take all of that information and just put it in a public platform. It used to be when someone would get married, you know, things, public notices would go inside the newspaper. Yeah, you guys personally, yeah.
Or
but
debts or-
that's what it is. It was a public notice. By law, that has to go out to some public platform. What happens is, it still does, it's just digital. What happens is the credit bureaus, along with LexisNexis, State Street, and Innovis, those are 3 sub bureaus. They go every day and scan that information for new information that's coming up, and they house it. So what they do is they grab it and they put it up on their platform. Boom, there goes a 200-point drop because you have now got a bankruptcy. It's algorithmic, the points. So what happens is, we know that that comes out, and so we will send a letter to the bankruptcy court, and we'll ask the bankruptcy court, hey, why did you report this to Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, and the other 3 bureaus? The bankruptcy court's going to do, they're going to send a letter back and say, no, we did not submit anything. That's legally out of our jurisdiction to send it to anybody. So what they did was they grabbed it. They didn't send it. They grabbed it from them and put it up on their public platform. So we take that letter and send it to the bureaus and say, guess what? They didn't send it to you. You took it illegally, as per the law that the bankruptcy court even put on there, that we are not to put this on. Now you're in violation of this law. If you don't get it removed, da da da. Yeah, isn't it? I mean, it's like people don't realize how. Now, keep in mind that does not absolve the debt. Though, if you did Chapter 11 a payback program, that you better keep paying.
Yeah,
because that does not remove those
Because if your
debts.
bankruptcy goes away, you still have then all these debts. Is that correct? If you get that to go away.
If you're on a payment program with them, a payback program, and you're paying like $700-800 a month, whatever, you got to keep paying those. Most people aren't though. I think that's Chapter 7. I think Chapter 11 is where you have to pay back.
Yeah.
But Chapter 7, that will still show all of the collections because typically to get to a bankruptcy, most people don't bankrupt until the debts are just, insurmountable. I can't pay it, and they're late and in collections. We can still get those items removed too. The collections, the charge-offs, the repos, anything that's on there, the child supports. We don't touch child supports if they're in the rears though, because it's just kind of a little bit more ethically. I don't do it because it's like, you should be paying for your kid. But if it's paid off at a 0 balance, we'll get it removed.
Now for the bankruptcy though, when you're filling out your mortgage application, they have to put that.
That's on them. Because we're not filling. I know there's a little checkbox that says, hey, look, if you ever filed a bankruptcy, whatever.
In the last 7 years or 5 years.
I mean, all we did is just get it removed. It's on your client.
Other things I've seen in the past is like bankruptcies may not always show up on a credit report, but they'll show up on a background check. Have you ever seen that?
We don't do background checks.
Your lenders don't?
No,
Even on title. Yeah, it won't reach that deep in title.
no, we don't do background
Yeah, I've
checks.
seen that in my style of financing that I used to do, but hey, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are certain levels of that a bankruptcy that we don't reach into on a bankruptcy, like certain deeper background checks. Like the treasurer and the Fed, they're still going to have all that information, but that's more governmental. So it doesn't really. Most people aren't getting that deep. Like the same companies that do background checks on you. They can still go and they could probably go into your closet if they want.
I had someone who was a convicted felon and they asked, and I was like, well, I actually have no idea. And I asked and no, they don't do background checks,
Okay.
just credit reports.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, we typically max out between $1,300 and $1,500. And when you look at, and when you look at the end of the day, for $1,300 and the debt that we're going to be removing, Last year, the audit that we did was about $7,500 worth of debt that we got removed for clients. So if someone said, hey, look, $1,500, we're going to remove $7,000 worth of debt, I think you would do it all day long.
And at certain credit levels, when you're going up at certain points, those are hundreds of dollars in savings or thousands in a down payment requirement for a loan.
Yeah.
Of course, over 700, they're now charging you more, but
Right. And not just the money, the finance side of it, the financial side of it, but you're looking at what's going to happen with your score. You know, I mean, if you could pay $1,500 to get it removed, just to get the score, most people would do that in itself. But this is twofold. It's going to come off the credit report, and then you're going to also get the score increase with it. So you can resolve that too.
Let me ask a question that a client's going to ask us. Like, you know, do you pay up front in full for this? And what if you guys are unsuccessful in getting that removed?
Yeah, good
That's what
question.
they're going to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, we do charge up front. But what we do is, and
you
legally,
do an intake
Especially with
first
people who
to
take up
determine
the
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we look at, and here's how we're legally able to charge up front. It's because first comes the consultation. So the consultation on our contract says it's, I think, $250 or $350 for the consultation to sit down and pull the credit report and see what's on there. Once we do that, we let them know, hey, here's what the charge is going to be. Here's how we're going to do it. Then we have what's called an administrative fee. These things that legally we have to put down to show that we are legally able to take this money from them up front, because you're not supposed to charge up front without having any work done. But if we're having the consultation, that's $350 right there. Now we're pulling the credit report. There's work right there, because we've gone through consultations and then no one has gone through, but it could be an hour's worth of work.
Totally.
Send it to my assistant. She goes through, looks at there's work being done, you know. And then at the end of the day, the reason why we don't accept payments is because we're looking at a credit report that says 9 times out of 10 we're gonna be on that line too.
Yeah.
We're number 5, you know, and we're not gonna get paid back. And has it happened? Absolutely, it's happened to us. We've lost thousands of dollars before, you know, and I was like, no more. Yeah, we just can't do it, because they're telling you. I had a client, we take credit cards too. I had a client that it was not too long ago, about maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Got him 150 points, 12 items removed, and they did a chargeback on us.
Wow.
The reason why they charged us back was because their score was not as high as they thought it would be. The reason why the score wasn't as high as they thought it would be is because they started running the credit cards back up. So credit utilization is huge. We can get everything removed off your credit report, but if you go 95% max on your credit cards, you're going to be at a 500.
So this is my question that it's been like brewing in my head. It's
Mhm.
loaded. Okay, so this is cool and amazing and mind blowing, right? And it can help people. I'm surprised more people don't know about it, but like, what are the ramifications? It seems almost like for somebody who pays all their bills on time, that people can be like the person you're describing, where they can be irresponsible and then have it wiped off and go back into it. Like, what are the ramifications for these kinds of people? Are there any? Like if you come in and get it repaired and it goes away, does life just move forward for them with no problems? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or like, let's say they default on an auto loan, you go in and fix it. Does the auto person still take away their vehicle if they don't continue to pay? How does that work? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So on
It
certain,
seems like if you're somebody that knows this loophole, that you would take advantage of it. Do you know what I mean? Like you
yes. So a
would
couple,
not pay and then say you don't have to have a few points. And
yeah. So a couple things about it is, I can look at a credit report and I can tell immediately if someone's like, I've had repeat clients,
right.
and then some I'm like, no, this ain't, we're not doing this, because I'm not going to be some part of your scam or whatever. You're not going to go. But so for instance, like talking about like an auto loan, but before that happens, they're going to take your car.
You're right.
They already have the car. So at that point, we're just getting the repo removed.
Got it.
So there's a law, same thing with verification, that they can't verify all
You're not
these
getting
things.
debts forgiven. You're getting off the report.
You're just fixing the credit.
We're fixing the credit, but we are getting the debt forgiven if they're legally not. So for instance, perfect example with the repo. You got a repo, $20,000 car. You owe $10,000 on it. They repo the car. You're getting a bill for $10,000, right? They have then sold that car at auction, and for that $10,000, guaranteed. Guaranteed. We know that the car is sold at auction because on the credit report, it will say that it will have another mark on there that shows that that car got sold. We can see it. We know they're not going to, and what they don't do is change the balance. Say, oh, the car got sold for 9,000. You only owe 1,000. No, they don't do that.
Right.
They still say you want that 10. They still want the 10. Legally, in any state, you cannot be what's called double indemnified, which means you got paid for, excuse me, the repo guy, Honda, Toyota, they've been made whole. They can't go after you for that $10,000 anymore. Yet they still are putting on the credit report. That's illegal. Can't do that. Has to come off. You don't owe them. They have the car. Someone else got the car. Everyone's happy. They're insured for it. Now, here is probably where the ramifications do come in. The biggest thing are credit cards. So credit cards are the touchy one. I will never tell someone to go run up their credit cards and then have us come and clean it off. Because what will happen is I'll tell them we can get it off the credit report for sure. But they may still come back and sue you if you're not, if you don't pay it or make some kind of payment arrangements.
Oh,
So because the credit card, because it's an unsecured debt, they're gonna hammer you for it. And probably about 70% of the time they will attack and sue. How successful they are? Usually pretty successful. But with that, I always tell a client, don't do a debt consolidation company because that's what a lot of people do. And that just screws your credit all day long.
Mhm.
It just does. People are like, oh, well, I'm going to spend $500 a month and have this company negotiate the debt for me. If you can't pay the credit card, okay, I get it. You wait for 6-7 months and they will settle with you. Usually 30 to 40 cents on the dollar. You've just saved yourself a bunch of money. And now you still got a payment plan. And at that point, then we can get that removed off your credit. While
Okay,
you're
so
still
I
making
have a
this credit.
client who has this situation. I ran his credit. I'm like, whoa, it popped up on his credit report as 12 delinquent accounts. Clearly, it was 4 of the same account were repeated 3 times on the credit report. He was saying, well, I call these, and I said, what is this? And he just said, well, I call these creditors and they're not willing to work with me, so I'm not paying it. And so at that point, I don't even know, because you're not getting it forgiven, right? You're trying to get it off the report.
What is the account?
I'm not too sure. I'm pretty sure one's a waterbed. I'm pretty sure that he financed. You might
still have those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have a car and maybe let's just say a car that's not repoed and then 2 other.
The car's a
cards.
DeLorean.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is like the credit people might say, okay, if your balance is 12, we'll settle for 5, and here's the payment plan.
Yeah. But in this case, now if it's the same account, now they're in trouble for duplicate reporting.
Yeah.
So that is one of the technicalities that can get the whole account removed. And
From the credit report, but not.
the debt as well. So here's the way you have to look at it. It's very much legally.
Yeah.
It's very legal. Remember that whole OJ thing? I mean, we all know OJ did it, right? I mean,
Do we? No, I'm sorry.
do we? Yes, we did. Okay, come on Zoom, he did. I know he did it. Okay. But how did he get acquitted from it? The glove didn't fit. Someone tampered with something because all these things had to be put in place or not admissible. You can't just say somebody killed somebody, but then there's this and that. The law is the same thing with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. If someone has this, you can't taint it with this. You can't put it on 3 different times. this 3 different times, it will drop your score 3 times as much.
Right.
You can't do that. So what happens is the ramifications against the debt furnisher is like, okay, you did that, you're out of here. You know, a speeding ticket, you can go 100 miles an hour over the speed limit. You get a ticket. Did you speed? Absolutely. If the cop doesn't show up, what happens? It's done.
Yeah.
Same thing. Sometimes the creditor will not respond either. If they don't respond, comes off. So that's another, again, we're not saying that the debt is not theirs. We're just asking them to validate it. We will only dispute the debt if it actually is disputable, like if it's identity theft, or if
That's what we
it's
have, yeah.
if that happens, then there's that avenue.
We possibly have a buyer who could be a liar, but he's saying his identity was stolen. And so that's why his credit is bad. So he's trying to get it
No.
fixed. Is that not what he's saying?
No, he and I have talked about it, and it's kind of odd.
Oh.
It just doesn't quite make sense.
Oh,
Which one was that?
It's basically he's got really low credit. He had told me, well, it kept popping up as an error when I tried to run his report. And so I asked if he had frozen his credit. He said, oh, it's unfrozen. But I keep trying to run it, and it's just saying that there's an error. And he says, oh, it should be unfrozen. And he's saying, oh, it's probably because someone else's name is on there. But he had told me his is low because he just had his credit pulled for equipment for his business. So it's like at a 560, let's say.
Mhm.
But only one bureau is reporting 560. The rest aren't even reporting anything. It's just an error message.
And he told us there's somebody else with the same name using his credit.
Yeah.
So that's identity theft too, right? What is our,
Yeah, I mean, so that's where a little bit deeper dive goes into that, and just say, first of all, I'll tell them, hey, look, did you file a police report?
he's Spanish speaking, so that's the big
There's a lot
thing.
of
Like
barriers
we were
there.
just like not sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah.
My first thing is if someone says they're claiming identity theft, first thing I ask them, did you file a police report? If they say no, I'm like, okay, well,
Mm.
okay. They'll say, because sometimes they don't know. Oh, I should do that? Yeah, file a police report. And then we call back a week later and they didn't. A month later, they didn't.
Yeah.
Because most people know that to file a police report fraudulently will land you in jail. And something like that. I mean, that's not a little thing. If they find out, that's not a slap on the wrist. You'll go right, to court and probably you're gonna be picking up trash for a while.
federal offense.
Yeah.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. And depending on too, if it's in another state that you say it happened, now you're crossing state lines. Now that's considered online theft. There's a lot of junk that goes in. So most people are smart enough to not do that. But that's the first clue when someone does not file a police report after you tell them. If they didn't at first, that might mean because they just didn't know. But after a little bit of counsel and they still don't, now it's like, all right, this is on you.
So they should file a police report if they truly believe in identity.
I think we should get them in touch.
Yeah.
With you for this.
Yeah, but then the first thing I'm going to say is, hola, please file a police report. Yeah, in that tone. But
Was he said he called Equifax and they were going to fix it, but then he had to write 2 letters to the other 2 bureaus and wait for them.
so the bureau, sometimes I've seen that happen where the bureaus do not report. And then they will ask you to, write a letter in with and send in a picture of your social and your driver's license to show that it is you. And then they will repopulate the credit report. After they do that, then you'll definitely see if it's been, identity theft or not, because then all these items that are not yours will be up there.
How long is that process? Because I want to say it's been 2 or 3 months since you may have done that.
Under 30 days, 2-3
Oh,
weeks
wow.
that they would,
Yeah.
that they will repopulate it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's usually about 2-3 weeks and it's repopulated. And then he can find out if these debts are his or not.
I have a question. At what point, or what would a person have to have in order to be like, why don't you check to see if you should get your credit repaired? Like what circumstances would be like, you're probably a good candidate for that.
Probably the first thing is they pop up Credit Karma and Credit Karma says, You know, I tell people if your score starts with a 4, 5, or 6, you probably need some credit report repair. Because even in the 600s, you could be in the 600s and have items still. I've seen people seeing in the 700s with collections on there. They're just really, really old, so they're not affecting as much. But in 600s, usually you start getting into, okay, I got 1 or 2 collections. So the first thing is the credit report.
But like collections, like you would have to know, like, yeah, I've got like collections calling me for certain things. That would be like, there's probably something on there that I can get rid of.
Yeah. Yeah. If they know, if somebody's calling you asking for money, you know, that's owed to them, 9 times out of 10, it's on their credit report. Most people kind of have an idea about what's on their credit report. Most people have an idea and they know, like, dang, I know I didn't pay that. Or I know I just got this late payment from, you know, Sears. I don't know, whatever. They just know that it's past 30 days. And most people should know that, hey, I did get, you know, make a car payment 30 days late. Most people should know that that's going to pop up on my credit. Very few people don't.
But anything other than like a late payment might be worth looking into.
I say anything that is on your credit report that is negative, let us know, because it's not going to help. Like I said, bankruptcies, charge-offs, late payments, judgments, liens, collections.
What about like, do you guys do advice on how to build up their credit? As in, you get someone who has had 2 credit cards, they've maxed them out, they're making all the payments, but their credit's really bad because it's only 2 forms of debt. I mean, do you do those kinds of consultations of, hey, go get another credit card, lower these balances to this?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things too that most people can't do, is to get a new card to do a balance transfer, because what happens is the credit card company is not going to loan you any more money. A different company is not going to give you, you know, if you got $10,000 of debt, Chase isn't going to give you a card with $20,000 on it to put it there to lower the, you know, the utilization.
Yeah.
So typically what we'll do is, I mean, we have access to millions of dollars of AUs, authorized users, which basically means someone can say, like, I want to grab a little bit more, a trade line. You know, I've got 80% credit utilization. We can put them on a trade line, another credit card that's got $30,000 worth of a limit with a 0 balance on it. That will now lower their credit usage, and they'll also insert the age. They'll inherit the age of the credit too of that card. That will give them a huge jump like that.
Yeah. Whose trade line is that $30,000 of available spending? Is it like some other random person that's volunteering their trade lines?
Yeah. So I have my own personal,
Yeah.
and then we also have others that have, you know, that will purchase from them too. And the whole point is making sure that there's 0 balance on it.
Interesting. So there's no risk to that person with the $30,000 trade line?
No, because here's the thing: if you say, "Hey, I want to get a trade line for $30,000," we'll say, "All right, fine, it's $1,000, whatever." That card will come in and it will go to either myself if it's my card, or to one of my clients. You'll never get the card, so you'll never be able to swipe it and run it up.
Yeah.
And so you can always use.
That's huge, though.
Oh, that's huge. And the reason why, I mean, I tell people, like, you can use your parents, you use someone. The only caution that you have with using somebody that you know, between myself, I'm not going to use these cards. I've got several $100,000 worth of.
I think I'm a little confused what you're talking about.
Like
I
if you have
am
a
too. I don't
if you have a
understand.
maxed out credit card for $10,000, so you have 0% spending power, 100% utilization. If you can get an extra $30,000 being an authorized signer on a $30,000 credit card with no spending, now you have $40,000 of total spending with $10,000 of debt. Now your ratios are 25%.
It's like a Credit Karma all the time is like, hey, apply for this credit card, you'll get $20,000 in credit. Your likelihood is very high. And then, so you have though, what do you mean you have these trade lines?
Yeah, so a trade line is anything that is, in this case, I usually refer to a trade line as a credit card, but a trade line is a car. Your phone bill, that's a trade line. Anything that is reporting on your credit is called a trade line. Positive or negative, it's still a trade line. A trade line, primarily though, to boost your credit, is a credit card.
Right.
Simple math. Again, if you're using 100% credit,
The line of credit.
yeah, on one card, If we put you on, and it's $10,000, and we put you on another card that has $10,000 with zero balance on it, simple math is now you're down to 50% utilization. Your score then goes up.
That's why you're saying you'll have your clients co-sign on a trade line.
They're just added to the
Just
account.
just add.
Oh,
yeah,
just
I would,
add
yeah,
it.
not co-sign.
No.
Because that
who
co-sign
gets-
is
but like he said, so wait, who gets the credit card?
the client.
The client gets that.
No,
They
my
don't have
or
access
myself.
to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
they
he
don't
won't have
to
access.
the
So-
cards.
Oh,
Yeah, let's
gotcha,
just say I put
It's a
you on.
strategy. It's not
Yeah,
for
look,
usage.
you're on this card and this card, right?
Oh, I thought you said you do give your client the
No,
card.
no,
I was
no,
like,
no,
wait,
They
that's
cannot-
not making
they
sense to
cannot
me.
use it.
You
Yeah,
get
okay,
these cards.
gotcha.
I put you on both of these.
Yeah.
One's gonna come in with your name on it,
Mhm.
but it's gonna come to me. This one won't come in with your name on it, but it's gonna come to me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm
Yeah.
gonna snap a picture of it, close the number off, snap a picture, and then I'm gonna cut it in half.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
that way
mom
they
did that for
choose.
us when we bought our first house because we had no credit and we were ready to buy a house. We didn't have any credit cards, no car payments, and she had credit cards. So she added my husband to her accounts and she paid her credit cards on time every month. So then we were able to buy a house that way.
So then with employers, because I have American Express as a business,
Mhm.
can we do the same thing for employees? Because it always asks me like, do you need any credit cards for your employees?
You can do it with anyone you want. The problem is with American Express, Amex will charge with the platinum. They'll charge you like $250.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be a preferred partner with. It's like no other cards usually charge that.
Yeah.
It's just because of the perks that they have, you know. But yeah, the issue that everyone may go, oh, that's great. I'm going to go ask this person. Now, that's not their business, so you don't know if mom or dad is going to rack it up, or if they get a late payment. So I've seen that before. People are like, oh, I'm on this credit card. Why did my score drop? Because grandma went to Vegas and got bottle service, and all of a sudden now like what happened?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and now it took her 6 months to start paying it down or off. In the meantime, yes, you've inherited the history, good, bad, or indifferent though. Being that this is a business and how we operate it, we make sure those cards aren't used. My clients, I have 4 or 5 clients that we piggyback with their cards. The deal is you don't use those cards. I mean, but the cool thing is, some of these cards are 25, 30 years old. So
Yeah.
you get on a trade line that's 30 years old, you're gonna go from a 500 to 750 real quick.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, most trade lines, most cards, I think, are about 3 years old that people have. That the average consumer has is only like 3 years old. That's not a lot. It's not very old. My oldest card is 12. That's not a long time. I mean, it's longer than most, but but once you start getting over there, what's that?
I'm trying to think when I got my first.
Can
Yeah.
you build credit without a credit card?
It's harder. Yeah, there's a couple of companies. You may have seen their commercials called self.com. It's Self-Lender. Self-Lender is really cool. I'll tell people that what you do is you go to self.com, you loan yourself money. You can write a contract to yourself for $500. And you say, all right, $500, I'm gonna pay myself $20 a month. Automatically comes out of your bank account, goes into an account for you. Every time you make that payment on time, reports to your credit.
And you still keep that money.
You keep the money, but the minute you take the money off and stop, then it stops reporting as a trade line. So it behooves you to keep it on as long as possible.
So to probably her question, I spoke to this high school class and the teacher stopped me and made a comment about, he said that now Netflix and Hulu and streaming services are going to start reporting to credit bureaus. So for kids who are looking to build credit, I'm guessing that's why you're asking,
Yeah.
that they should do that versus getting a credit card. And he asked me about it. I'm like, I've never heard of this, but is that true?
Now,
I only say that because we got into a ton of credit card trouble early on, right?
Uh-huh.
With debt. That's now done.
Mhm.
We have young adults who are like, we want to get a credit card because we need to build our credit. And I'm just terrified because I know the danger of credit cards.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if there's a better way to do this.
Self-Lender is one.
Self-lender.
Kickoff.
Self-funded.
Yeah. Kickoff, it's KIKOFF. Kickoff.com is pretty cool too, because you can finance You know, there's things, I think everything's under like 25 bucks. You can finance a book, you know, and you'll be paying $1 a month for the book. And you just keep it on auto pay. And guess what? You get the book, you get whatever, and it goes to your credit report. Yeah. It's so people get always.
So is it true about Hulu and Netflix that they're starting to report to the bureaus?
So they may report if you're negative, if you're late. That's the problem. So
Oh.
yeah, so they may have it like they may say, all right, now upcoming contracts, you have to sign up for a year. No, I'm not going to sign up for Netflix for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, even though we use it for a year for a whole bunch of money, but they may say, here's a new contract, sign up for a year. It's going to go monthly, month to month. And if you miss 1 month payment, they're going to stick it on your credit. That's a good way for them to start now nabbing people, because what they're trying to do is stop this whole sharing thing. You got one Netflix account and 30 other people have it. By doing that, they can stop that. They can trace who's using it now, all these, you know, ways around that.
Same.
Yeah. So, but credit cards, I would definitely put them on one of your credit. If you have one, put them on your credit card.
Mhm.
You get it, cut it in half.
Yeah.
Never let them
Great,
use it.
great advice, yeah.
Kickoff.
But does it
Did
count
someone write that down?
if you're not
Yeah.
spending on it though?
So
Well, they will spend on it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, they'll spend on
you
it.
just can't mess up. So-
Yeah, you just can't mess up. You got to be responsible with it. I tell people always keep the credit underneath 35%.
Mhm.
35% will definitely keep it. And once you start getting
Under
40,
35%.
yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
interesting.
they'll tell you 20. The lower the better,
I
absolutely.
think
But
the points guy, I read his book at one point. It was like, yeah, below 30, but that was a long time ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but then Dave Ramsey will also tell you don't have a credit card.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that
But
guy's
oh,
a
sure,
liar.
that's perfectly fine if you've got 7 figures in the bank. Yeah, then you don't need a credit card. But here's the reality: is you do need a credit card.
Mhm.
Try renting a car.
Yeah.
You know, before I started this business, kind of how I got into it was my credit was bad, so I didn't have a credit card. I had a debit card, but you cannot rent a car, especially in New York, with a debit card.
Mhm.
You need a credit card because it holds it. That's guaranteed funds. So there are reasons why you do need credit cards. You just have to learn to be very responsible with them because they will get you in a lot of trouble if not. Any other questions?
Business owner or anyone else? This is probably not the
This
most
has been
useful
very
one.
helpful.
Does the DUNS number actually do anything for businesses?
For business credit, yeah. But I mean,
Not, yeah.
unless you're getting, but what people don't realize is to get a good DUNS number, Dun and Bradstreet, if good business credit, you do have to have personal credit first.
Yeah.
People think, oh, I'll just start a business. I'll run everything through the business. Well, you got to have good credit to start it. The business can't run as an entity completely separate unless you've got it so built up. And a lot of people don't.
Okay.
But yeah, you do need.
But then you can eventually have such a good one. You can just apply for debt just with the business.
Absolutely. And then the business will get a higher limit, way higher limit. Than, you know, once we got a better DUNS number, we getting credit cards, $70,000, $80,000 left and right.
Mm-hmm.
When the average person now, I mean, you can show a bunch of income and it's going to be very difficult to get a credit card over $10,000. You'll have it and then they'll work you up to it, you know, after time, but it's difficult now to get a credit card for more than $10,000.
Hmm.
The